I was recently interviewed for and quoted in an article about Index Universal Life by Beth Pinkser of MarketWatch, and after reading the full article, I wanted to give you my blow-by-blow response to all of the claims that were made, both good and bad. For starters, I had a very respectful phone call with Beth, which lasted about 15 minutes, and discussed many aspects of the IUL. I fully understand that during that 15-minute phone call, she's looking for a quote or two that can buttress her thesis, which turned out to be that IUL is probably not a viable financial tool for the vast majority of the population. I think the thesis is wrong, but I don't begrudge her the conclusion she came to. She's just doing her job. I would, however, like to go through the article and give my impressions of all the claims put forth by her and some of the other advisors she interviewed for the article. Okay, let's take this thing from the top. Beth begins by saying, quote, "If you look past scammy sales tactics, specious TikTok claims, and unproven promises, there's a sliver of usefulness to complicated IUL insurance policies. Everywhere you turn, somebody is probably trying to sell you Index Universal Life Insurance, financial advisors, TikTok influencers, news channel commercials, and even your company's benefits team. These policies are marketed as a solution to all your financial frustrations, like access restrictions on 401k policies, the taxation of Social Security and Medicare benefits, the high cost of long-term care, and the slow, boring process of compound investment growth," close quote. I totally agree with her opening salvo. The IUL is marketed with scammy sales approaches and is often put forth as a Swiss Army knife financial tool. They're a panacea, a silver bullet that can make all your wildest financial dreams come true. They've historically been used by the richest people in the world, and only recently were they made available to you, the unwashed masses. Okay, let's keep going. Quote, "Can you really make a guaranteed tax-free 15% plus return with no strings attached and still have money left over when you die, as some claim on TikTok videos? Probably not. But a lot of people are buying into the claims, and policy sales are spiking. Insurance companies sold nearly 450,000 Index Universal Life contracts in 2022. For a total of about $2.7 billion in premiums, says Wink Inc. Chief Executive Cheryl J. Moore, an independent analyst who tracks life insurance sales. Sales have picked up consistently over the past 10 years. In 2011, premiums were less than $1 billion, close quote. To be fair, I have seen agents making the 15% claim based on reverse engineered indexes, and I have called them out on it. But I haven't heard anyone as yet claim that 15% was guaranteed. Let's keep going. Quote, "They say it's the panacea to all financial needs. It sounds too good to be true. It can happen like that, but the chances are really low in my opinion," says Andy Pankow, a certified financial planner based in New Jersey who is running a detailed analysis of IUL based on his own policies and others, close quote. I like Andy. He's a friend of mine. I'd like to come to his defense a bit on this quote. It feels a bit like it was hodgepodge together. IUL is often positioned as a panacea, and it can sound too good to be true, but I don't think Andy is saying that there is a small chance, however low, that it could actually turn out to be a panacea. I think that there's precisely 0% chance the IUL can solve all your financial needs. IUL is good at doing what IUL does, but it would never take the place of, for example, a Roth 401k with a match. We have to stop claiming capabilities for the IUL that the IUL doesn't claim for itself. Okay, let's press on. Quote, "Most policies in force today have been in effect only a few years, and the longest ones not much more than 10 years. The longest I've seen personally is 12 years, says Kevin Lau, a certified financial planner based in Jacksonville, Florida, who has investigated the policy details of many IULs. It's not very tested, and there's not a lot of longevity," close quote. "My two preferred carriers have been putting out IUL since 2003 and 2006, respectively, and over that time frame, they've endured market highs and market lows, historically normal levels of interest rates, and a zero interest rate environment. And frankly, both companies' policies have emerged relatively unscathed throughout it all. We'll get into returns here in a second, but I think it's unfair to say that these policies haven't been tested." Okay, let's keep going. Quote, "That leaves a lot of the claims about death benefits and long-term care unproven. So too, the illustrations about the growth of the policies. Unlike stocks and other equities, which are strictly regulated to prevent making claims about growth, IULs can be marketed with long-term projections. Some of these show sustained growth in the range of 9% to 15%. In reality, Pankow and Lau are seeing average returns around 5% more in line with traditional bond returns than the S&P 500, on which most of the policies are based," close quote. Again, I like Andy Pankow, don't really know Kevin Lau, but 5% gross returns seem low based on the track records of hundreds of policies I've seen. I'm not sure how many policies they've audited, but again, 5% seems low. I think 5 to 7% net of fees over time is a more realistic rate of return. But all that said, you really shouldn't fixate on returns over a 1, 3, 5, or even 10-year period of time. The IULs returns must be considered and evaluated over the life of the program. Let's continue. Quote, at base, Indexed Universal Life is like any other permanent life insurance policy. You pay in premiums over time and your heirs will get a death benefit when you die. And it doesn't run out in 10 or 20 years like term life insurance. The difference with these policies is that they have a cash value feature where your account is aligned against an index, usually the S&P 500. The money is not directly invested in the market in your own account like it would be in a 401k or IRA, but you are credited for a certain amount of growth each year, more like an interest payment. IUL policies typically have a floor of 0, meaning that even if the index goes negative, your cash doesn't lose value. But there are also caps, these days around 9%, but they could be as high as 12% or as low as 6%. Plus, the caps can change on existing policyholders over time at the discretion of the issuer. Close quote. No real problems with these two paragraphs, as it's a fairly accurate description of how the IUL works. By the way, if you have a policy that still has a 6% cap, even after the recent surge in interest rates, I think you probably picked the wrong carrier. Okay, we continue. Quote, with IULs, you can take loans against the cash value, and that money is not counted as taxed income. The insurance policy is the collateral, much like you would borrow against your house for a home equity line of credit. You can also get a long-term care rider and use the cash value built up in order to pay for medical needs. Because this is a life insurance policy and not an investment, the tax treatment is one of the key features that gets touted by IUL enthusiasts. A death benefit is not taxed, and so the cash you take out as loans against it is not taxed as income either, contrary to a distribution from a tax-deferred retirement account. You can also avoid that pesky 59.5 age restriction on distributions and required minimum distributions, RMDs, from tax-deferred accounts after age 73. Some promoters even talk about avoiding Medicare IRMA surcharges for high-income individuals by taking loans instead of RMD distributions. You could presumably lower your income below the government's means testing thresholds, close quote. No problems with these two paragraphs. I think these are accurate depictions of the benefits of the IUL. But gird up your loins, because here comes the alleged drawbacks. Quote, but the catches. If you use any of these cash out features, you will, first of all, lower your death benefit. There are also fees and other charges, especially within the policy surrender policy, which could be 10 years or more. And there are ways in which the loans end up taxable. You can very quickly get into trouble with these policies, close quote. Okay, when you take loans or withdrawals, you do reduce your death benefit, but that's only because your cash value is a function of your death benefit. Take your cash value plus the amount of life insurance you're paying for in a given year, and that's your death benefit. So if you spend some of your cash value while you're alive, then of course your death benefit will be lower at death. This isn't a catch or a drawback of IUL, it's simply a reality of the policy. Furthermore, loans could end up being taxable, but it's a bit heavy-handed to say that this could very quickly happen. Policies have to be managed, and so long as you have at least $1 in your cash value at death, there are no taxable implications. Okay, we continue. Quote, I see some ads in Facebook groups and such talking about a tax-free retirement account. But tax-free is far from the truth, says Panko. You can take out up to the amount you paid in, taking back your own money. But if you withdraw more than what you put in, it's fully taxable, close quote. Okay, again, I'm going to give Andy the benefit of the doubt on this. On LinkedIn, he acknowledged that he was interviewed for about half an hour and felt like this quote didn't give full context to what he was saying. Andy, a CFP, full well knows that if you take out your growth by way of a loan, that it will not be taxable. Let's keep going. Quote, so who should buy IULs? Somebody who needs life insurance, period. The reality is that you're buying a life insurance policy. The reason to buy a life insurance policy is to get a life insurance policy, says Lau. Close quote. Okay, this statement is massively reductive and overly simplistic. Yes, you have to have a life insurance need to purchase an IUL, and yes, you have to qualify. But pure death benefit protection is hardly the only reason why someone would want to own an IUL. This completely ignores utilizing an IUL as a bond alternative, as a volatility buffer in retirement, or as a means of mitigating against long-term care. She continues, quote, that, however, is not why most people are buying IULs, thanks perhaps to the marketing pitches. Moore says almost 80% of people buying did so for the cash accumulation feature, according to her company tracking, while only 7% bought because of the death benefit. That contrasts to the reasons why people buy universal and whole life policies, which is primarily for the death benefit. Only 15% of those buying universal life did so for the cash accumulation. David McKnight, a financial planner and author of The Power of Zero, who sells IUL policies and explains them in detail on his YouTube channel, says the best use case he sees for Index Universal Life is people over age 50 who are looking to shield themselves from long-term care risk. However, he has not actually seen this in action yet, close quote. Okay, this doesn't give full context to what I said in the interview. I don't think this is the best use of an IUL, merely a use of an IUL. All of my books discuss the various contexts in which an IUL can help mitigate retirement risks and help you wring the most efficiency from your retirement dollars, and it goes far beyond simply using it as a way to mitigate long-term care risks. She continues, quote, I've been selling IUL for the last 11 years, so if you were looking at couples that were 50 and 60 then, they're 60 and 70 now. None of those people have had to use long-term care yet, McKnight says. That becomes a big caveat when you consider that you are buying these policies some 20 or 30 years before you might need care, and the whole industry could go sideways. Just look at the trajectory of the traditional long-term care market, which has flatlined in the past few years because policies became too expensive for companies to maintain. Actuaries are good at predicting these things from the death benefit standpoint. They weren't so good at the long-term care part of it, says McKnight, close quote. All right, we should not conflate the long-term care actuaries' ability to accurately predict claims and life insurance actuaries' ability to do so. The fact is, life insurance actuaries have been accurately predicting the length of people's lives for over 150 years, and I hardly see that going sideways in the coming decades. Remember, these IUL policies are underwritten based on mortality, how long you're going to live, and not morbidity, the likelihood that you'll need long-term care. Quote, the real sweet spot for IUL sales might be people like Moore, or maybe even just Moore herself, as an expert in all types of insurance policies who has a need for multiple policies as a small business owner. Moore also owns whole life and universal life policies, but uses IULs as key person insurance on all her employees, plus her husband and kids. Her oldest contract is 20 years old and was originally capped at 12%. There have been years I've earned 12% and also years I've earned 0. I've averaged about 7%, she says. I will tell you that in my experience with IUL, most people selling it are doing a good job, but there are a lot of people who do not properly understand how it works, but think they do, and therefore are not doing their clients a service, close quote. I also count Cheryl Moore among my friends, and I think she does a good job of critiquing the IUL in an even-handed way. She's personally earned 7% in her IUL, which is perfectly in line with what you should expect, and she fully acknowledges that there are scammy advisors, but she doesn't conflate those few bad apples with scammy products. The IUL is a viable financial tool when used in the right context and can likely benefit far more people than this article actually leads you to believe. Overall, I think this article fell short, and I respectfully disagree with its conclusions. So, Beth, if you're watching this, let's connect and collaborate on your next IUL article. I'd love to clear a few things up and share with your audience how the IUL, when utilized and funded properly, can be a crucial cog in a balanced, comprehensive approach to tax-free retirement. If you would like some help implementing a balanced, comprehensive approach to tax-free retirement planning that shields you from longevity risk and tax rate risk, head over to DaveMcKnight.com and click on the Connect with an Advisor button. I'm happy to refer you to an advisor in the Power of Zero network that has been trained, vetted, and qualified personally by me. If you're a financial professional and want to learn how to become a certified Power of Zero advisor, head over to PowerZero.com and opt into my free video series. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section below. I'll respond to every single one of them personally. And don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. This is David McKnight. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.